running a business, so Frank can focus on the beat.
You hear that?
This is Frank's Record Shop, and this is where life meets legal.
Good morning. Time now for some quick headlines. Violence in Chicago showing no signs of slowing down. This weekend alone, at least 3 are dead and 16 wounded in shootings throughout the city. Latest numbers on record show more than 1,900 people have been shot in the Windy City this year. Unbelievable. And 7 people are thrown into handcuffs following a heated protest over a torn down Confederate statue. Demonstrators at the University of North Carolina clashing over Silent Sam, a 105-year-old monument toppled during a rally. None of the suspected arrested are affiliated with the school. The charges include assault and resisting arrest. The statue will be put back up due to state law. And finally, superdelegates will no longer have the power to vote for the Democratic presidential nominee. In a historic move, the DNC voting to limit their power. Starting in 2020, superdelegates will not be allowed to vote on the first ballot at a national convention. It comes after Bernie Sanders supporters accused the DNC of stacking superdelegates in Hillary Clinton's favor.
All right. Past presidents remembering Senator John McCain.
Former President George W. Bush releasing a statement reading, quote, "Some lives are so vivid, it is difficult to imagine them ended." John McCain was a man of deep conviction and a patriot of the highest order. He was a public servant in the finest traditions of our country.
Dana Perino, of course, served as White House press secretary for President Bush and is the host of the Daily Briefing, co-host of The Five. She joins us now live. Dana, we appreciate you coming in on Sunday morning. And what I'm struck by in that statement from President Bush, among other things, is these guys had a spirited debate, to say the least, in 2000, and there were some bitter moments there. But it seems to me, and you saw it up close, both of these men got past that and tried to work together.
I do think that one of the most important things I learned in Washington, D.C. was the power of forgiveness, especially in politics. So President Bush and McCain certainly fought bitterly, right, and all the way down South Carolina primary. And like terrible things were said, not directly man to man, but by their supporters and in the media, and certainly there were ads that were run. And I think that's amazing that people can get past that and then work together on policies and issues like the tax cuts of 2001, certainly after 9/11. And John McCain became somebody that President Bush would turn to often for his support and for his advice, his consultation, and to help get things through the Congress. And remember this, Ed, John McCain traveled tirelessly when he was well. When they had recess, he didn't go on vacation. He went to visit the troops all over the world. Just an absolutely tireless advocate for that. And so I do think that forgiveness in politics is important because it allows others to move on, including their staff. So if the leaders can forgive each other, that means the staffs can work together.
That's such a great point, Dana. You talked about the power of forgiveness, but also the power of humility. I think in his final speech to the Senate, he readily admitted that his personality, his feistiness, his impulsiveness sometimes got in the way of bipartisanship or made it difficult to come together. But yet he called on the Senate to make that their priority, to cooperate and work across the aisle.
A young man that used to work for me one time basically had his head bitten off by Senator McCain, and he never forgot it, but he certainly respected the senator because he had this way of never being dismissed. He was a wonderful patriot, and I'm honored to have known him, and I wish his family the best.
We appreciate your time. You're right. More Fox and Friends coming up.
Cancer. It's very personal. Each of us is different, and each cancer is different. How it reacts, how it evades and adapts, and how we attack it. That's why at Cancer Treatment Centers of America, we use diagnostic tools that help us better understand what drives each person's cancer. This is what we mean by outsmarting cancer. And for some, it may uncover more effective treatment options. Like Christine Bray. After battling ovarian cancer for several years, her test results revealed a potential treatment not considered previously. A drug therapy that targeted her tumor. Today, Christine's metastatic cancer is in remission. This is Precision Cancer Treatment. Because at Cancer Treatment Centers of America, we're not just fighting cancer, we're outsmarting it. Visit cancercenter.com and schedule an appointment with one of our cancer care specialists today.
Who wants to eat from a pet bowl that's 100% non-toxic, lead-free, BPA-free? The Pet Comfort Feeding System by WeatherTech. Proudly made in America. Order at petcomfort.com.
Folks, if you look out your window, we're flying over IHOP's delicious international pancake combos.
Sweet tres leches.
Pancakes. Let's back this thing up and take another look.
Go on a pancation with international pancakes at IHOP, starting at $4.99.
My name is Jeff Sheldon, and I'm the founder of UgMonk. Before ShipStation, it was crazy. Like, it's great when you see, 100 orders come in, but then you realize I got 100 orders that I actually have to ship out. ShipStation streamlined that whole process. The order data, the weights of the items, everything is seamlessly put into ShipStation. So when we print the shipping label, everything's pretty much done. It's so much easier. So now we're ready, bring on the orders.
ShipStation, the #1 choice of online sellers. Go to shipstation.com/try and get 2 months free.
We all feel pressure, but it's how we respond that matters. 911, what is your emergency? Earthquake! Get out of there, guys! Oh my God.
Nowhere to run to, baby. Let's get him out of here before this thing blows! Got nowhere to run to, baby. Got nowhere to hide.
911 2-night premiere event, September 23rd on Fox.
More than ever, we viewers need someone we can depend on.
Dr. Pol is amazing.
A hard-working man.
Nobody cares for the animals like he does.
Who can bring us all together and make everything and everyone feel better. That's why Dr. Pol is our choice for America's vet.
I'm going for it. Thank you.
Vote for the incredible Dr. Pol. New episodes Saturdays at 9 on Nat Geo Wild.
I'm Dr. Pol, and I approve this message.
So many important parts of John McCain's legacy that we're talking about, and really one of the most important parts is the living legacy of the family he leaves behind, and one key part of that family, obviously very familiar to the Fox family, being Meghan McCain, who had worked here for some time, now at ABC, and she's somebody who's still very close to all of us. We've been keeping in touch with her as her dad battled this illness, and you think about her strength throughout all of this.
Yes.
She clearly got a lot of that from her dad. She
absolutely did. And remember, we talk about all the wonderful things that John McCain has done in his career, but he's somebody's dad. And she left a very touching message that we want to share with you. She says, "All that I am is thanks to him. Now that he is gone, the task of my lifetime is to live up to his example." Meghan McCain has been sharing her thoughts on her father, his legacy, and just what he means to her personally over the last few months. So not surprising if you get a chance to go online and read the entire message. It's, really touching, talking about being with him at the last moment, just as
she had just been recently married, and he was there, obviously.
And just as he was with her when she first came into life. So
and
touching.
The role of father, not one to be overlooked, and now the country will hear from Meghan in the coming days, and remember
Not
such
just
a
a
great
politician.
dad he was as well.
All right, still ahead, mourners watching as a hearse carrying Senator McCain passes by in Arizona. Soon, the entire country will have the opportunity to pay their respects. A live report from the senator's home state. That's next.
Hey, Stacy. I'm almost home. I'll let you in, okay?
Doorman service, brought to you by ADT. Smart security designed and installed just for you.
Men, after 40, you have a choice. Live with less drive and less muscle, or get Ageless Male, the best-selling free testosterone booster with over 4 million bottles sold. Ageless Male. Promote confidence, libido, and more free testosterone.
It's absolute confidence in 30,000 precision parts. Or it isn't. It's inspected by Mercedes-Benz factory-trained technicians. Or it isn't. It's backed by an unlimited mileage warranty, or it isn't. For those who never settle, it's either Mercedes-Benz certified pre-owned, or it isn't. The Mercedes-Benz certified pre-owned sales event, now through August 31st, only at your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer.
You're turning onto the street when you barely clip a passing car. Minor accident, no big deal, right? Wrong. Your insurance company is going to raise your rate after the other car got a scratch so small you could have fixed it with a pen. Maybe you should take that pen and use it to sign up with a different insurance company.
For drivers with accident forgiveness, Liberty Mutual won't raise their rates because of their first accident. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
I'm really big on knowing why I'm doing something based on some kind of science. Up till about 8th grade, I was actually very overweight, and the only way it was going to change is if it started with me. I want to be able to train as smartly and as accurately as I possibly can. And I'm always looking for those kind of things that can help me progress forward as just a healthy person and as an athlete.
Know your body. Understand your DNA with 23andMe. Order your Health Plus Ancestry Kit today at 23andme.com.
The closer you get to home, the more you know the commute is worth it. For all the work you pour into this place, you sure get a lot more out of it. You and that John Deere tractor. So versatile, you can keep dreaming up projects all the way home. It's a longer drive, but just like a John Deere, it's worth it. Nothing runs like a Deere. Now you can own a 1E subcompact tractor for just $99 a month. Learn more at your John Deere dealer.
Tired of lugging around big bags of pet food and litter? Get it delivered. Chewy.com delivers everything your pets need right to your door. They ship all your favorite brands of dog food, cat food, litter, toys, and treats, all at amazing prices. Plus, you get fast, free shipping. With Chewy.com, you don't have to break a sweat or the bank.
Save 20% on your first order and get fast, free shipping. Shop online at Chewy.com.
This is not a bed. It's a revolution in sleep. The new Sleep Number 360 smart bed is on sale now from $8.99 during Sleep Number's biggest sale of the year. It senses your movement and automatically adjusts to keep you both comfortable. It even helps with this. So you wake up ready to put your pedal to the metal. And now all beds are on sale. Save 50% on the new Sleep Number 360 limited edition smart bed, plus 24-month financing on all beds, only for a limited time. Sleep Number, proven quality sleep.
Good morning. We're remembering the legacy of war hero and Senator John McCain, who leaves behind a legacy. He's passed away at the age of 81.
The former Republican presidential nominee losing his year-long battle with brain cancer.
He went home to Arizona for treatment in December. Everyone remembers that. Then on Friday, his family announced he was discontinuing that treatment. He passed away late Saturday afternoon, just days before his 82nd birthday.
Tucker Carlson now takes a look back at the senator's life.
John Sidney McCain III was born in 1936 on a military base in the Panama Canal Zone to one of the most prominent families in the United States Navy. McCain's grandfather accepted the Imperial Japanese surrender aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay in 1945. His father, also a four-star general, later commanded all American naval forces in the Pacific. After graduating from Episcopal High School in Virginia, McCain followed their lead, entering the Naval Academy in the class of 1958. By the time war broke out in Vietnam, McCain was an aviator, having already bailed out of 2 airplanes during training. In June of 1967, he nearly lost his life for a 3rd time. A rocket aboard the aircraft carrier Forrestal went off accidentally and struck his plane as it idled on deck. 134 sailors died, but McCain rolled through the flames to safety.
I felt this tremendous blow to my airplane and saw the
fire coming out, so I probably had reacted a little more quickly than those in the planes near me. Some of those in the planes near me didn't survive.
4 months later, his luck ran out. On October 26, 1967, during a daytime bombing mission over downtown Hanoi, McCain's plane was hit by a missile he later described as like a flying telephone pole. Gravely injured during ejection, McCain landed in a lake in front of thousands of angry North Vietnamese civilians, one of whom stabbed him in the groin with a bayonet. Authorities dragged McCain in chains to Hoa Lo Prison, later dubbed the Hanoi Hilton. To this day, there is a statue of John McCain on the banks of the lake where he was shot down, celebrating his capture.
He was terribly injured, fractured arms, broken knee, left arm was out of the socket. He had not been fed, and basically he was starving to death.
McCain's captors soon discovered he was an admiral's son, and they offered him early release as a propaganda coup. McCain refused, showering his guards with defiant profanity. He spent the next 3 years in solitary confinement being tortured with ropes. The experience pushed him repeatedly to the edge of death. He was sustained by fellow American prisoners with whom he communicated by tapping in code on the walls of the prison. One of those men was Medal of Honor recipient Air Force Colonel Bud Day.
Bud Day was the most steadfast, the most inspirational, and the toughest of anybody that I must have something to do with his Iowa upbringing.
McCain was finally released in 1973 to a hero's welcome back in America, but his health and his marriage were permanently damaged. To the end of his life, he could never fully raise his arms, and though as a rule he never mentioned it, he sometimes needed help to brush his hair and dress. In 1981, he retired from the Navy as a captain and moved to Arizona to marry Cindy Hensley, a teacher from a prominent Phoenix family. Encouraged by Ronald Reagan to run for Congress, McCain spent 2 terms in the House of Representatives before being elected to the Senate in 1986. McCain held that seat for 31 years. He became one of the most energetic and visible politicians in America, famous both for his subversive sense of humor and his savage temper. After a brush with scandal in 1989 during the savings and loan meltdown, McCain developed into a champion of campaign finance reform. The McCain-Feingold Law, passed in 2001, is maybe his signature legislative achievement. Although less well-known, McCain also spent decades working on behalf of American Indian tribes and airline deregulation, 2 of his personal passions. In 1999, McCain began a run for president. He crisscrossed the primary states for the better part of a year in an aging tour bus he called the Straight Talk Express. He was accompanied by former POWs and a star-struck press corps who were awed by the candidate's wit and candor and the reckless, exuberant way he ran. For a brief period, it looked like McCain might win the nomination. He beat George W. Bush in the New Hampshire primary by 19 points that year, but his seat-of-the-pants challenge collapsed soon after, and he conceded in March of 2000, returning to the Senate. McCain soon emerged as a leading voice on American foreign policy. He helped lead the charge for George W. Bush's invasion of Iraq in 2003, as well as for the bitterly debated troop surge in that country several years later. At the end of Bush's second term, McCain once again announced his candidacy for president. This time, he won the nomination. In a surprise move at the Republican convention in Minneapolis, McCain introduced his running mate, Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. He later conceded he barely knew Palin. Her addition boosted the ticket for a time, but in the end, unified media support for his opponent and a historic financial collapse that voters blamed on the Republican donor class proved insurmountable. McCain lost that race definitively in November. McCain's concession speech that year revealed as much about him as anything he ever said in public. Beneath the aviator's bluster and his legendary temper lay a bedrock of decency and a total commitment to good manners in the face of defeat.
Senator Obama and I have had and argued our differences, and he has prevailed. No doubt many of those differences remain. These are difficult times for our country, and I pledge to him tonight to do all in my power to help him lead us through the many challenges we face.
Back in the Senate, McCain retook his place as the most powerful voice for neoconservative foreign policy, expanded American military commitments abroad, nation building, the spread of democratic government. He rallied for military intervention in Libya against Muammar Gaddafi, He pushed for political reform in Egypt. He called for regime change in Syria. He became one of the few elected officials willing to argue for more American troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. Even as he remained ferociously hawkish on foreign affairs, McCain, like his hero and friend Arizona Democrat Mo Udall, moved steadily leftward on domestic matters, notably immigration. By the time the Republican Party nominated Donald Trump in the summer of 2016, McCain seemed close to a complete break with his own party. He pulled his endorsement of Trump and became one of the new president's most persistent critics. For a man battered by physical suffering in his early decades, McCain spent the second half of his life in hale health. He kept a travel schedule that would have exhausted seasoned athletes. He beat melanoma in 2000 and bore the scars on his face to prove it. But his final illness, an incurable brain tumor, could not be stopped. As news of his cancer was announced, McCain's colleagues in both parties acknowledged that Congress was losing a singular man.
You are defined by your courage, and you're redeemed by your loyalty. Courage and loyalty. I can think of no better description of the man we're honoring tonight, my friend John McCain.
The one thing that I like most about John McCain, he doesn't run away from the shortcomings. When you balance out John McCain's life, is something we admire. I don't know about you, but I feel like I've been very lucky to be in his shadow and to be his friend.
John McCain is survived by his wife Cindy, 7 children, and his mother Roberta, who is 106 years old and every bit as tough as her son.
Terrific job by Tucker to pull all that together.
Absolutely. Our next guest says Senator McCain always believed in serving a greater purpose and inspired those around him to do the same.
Douglas Holtz-Eakin served as Director of Domestic and Economic Policy for Senator McCain's 2008 presidential campaign. He joins us live now. Good morning, Douglas. We really appreciate you coming in. What are your thoughts as you try to make sense of this? Because we knew this was coming, but I know you served him so closely in that campaign and kept in touch with him, and he meant so much to you. What are you thinking about this morning?
Well, you're right in that it's not a surprise, but it's still just a horrible shock to realize his past and his legacy will endure, and he'll continue to inspire. But it's a tough morning, to be honest.
Doug, let me ask you, you say that something that a lot of people don't talk about is that people like you that have served Senator McCain and worked with him, you did your best work with him. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it just struck me as I thought about his life that, people focus on John, understandably, just a giant man with a huge presence. And there were so many people like me who would say, it was such an honor and a privilege to work for him. And then I realized that I did my best work for him, and I looked at other people, and they were at their best for him. And it's because, really, in the end, it wasn't for him. If you were around him, you bought into the notion that there was something greater at stake. It was this country, it was this shining city on the hill, and that your efforts were directed toward that. And it inspired all of us to do things that I don't think we otherwise would have done. I let Ed Henry see me without my bare legs. It was a shocking moment.
Oh my gosh, I was going to tell this story, but I wasn't sure it was appropriate. And it's so
not appropriate.
Funny you did it because I knew you were emotional. And so on Election Day 2008, I went to interview Douglas Holtz-Eakin. I had this assignment to do behind the scenes. What's the candidate doing? We were at the Arizona Biltmore, as I recall. And so what do they do on Election Day? They're getting poll numbers. They think they're probably going to lose. And I run into Douglas Holtz-Eakin. I couldn't find other McCain aides. I'm like, please, you got to help me. I'm going to be fired if I don't do this, please. And he's in running shorts. He's like, I just went jogging, dude. Like, give me a minute here. And I said, I got to shoot this piece right now. And to his credit, and why we're friends, is he agreed to do the piece and do the interview. He said, but if you show my knees on TV, I will basically never speak to you again, Henry. And I kept my word and did not show his knees.
He did.
And he helped me. But I was going to mention that story because what I remember about being at that hotel is Election Day. I was covering the McCain side. You're there. You know you're probably going to lose. The polls didn't look good. Everyone still hopes for the best when you're in a campaign, obviously. And that night, we elected the nation's first African-American president. And as the Republican nominee, John McCain could have said a whole bunch of things that night. And I remember him coming out that night and saying, I lost fair and square. I think it's wonderful for this country that we now have a black president for the first time. And he really tried. It didn't always work because there's still a lot of division in this country.
Oh, God,
but he tried to bring people together. What do you remember about that night?
Ed, I'll tell you, it wasn't just that night. That's what he said the whole campaign. He said, we're going to conduct ourselves with honor. We're in the middle of history. He will possibly be the first African-American president, and we are going to conduct ourselves with honor. It was a tremendous act of leadership, because the temptation is the opposite. You know that, of course.
Well, and you worked with him, and you know he's a rebel, that he had a good sense of humor.
Fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And he joked so much about himself and didn't take himself too seriously. Joked about having graduated from, the 5th at the bottom of his class. Is that something else that you remember about him?
Oh yes, I mean, I in a fit of lunacy, got frustrated with the press. I know that's shocking, and and they were saying he had no experience as a regulator, and he had been the chairman of the Commerce Committee. But I got frustrated. I pulled out my BlackBerry and I said, "John McCain invented the BlackBerry," and it was a joke. Never tell a joke in a campaign. It went viral that I was claiming he was the next Al Gore and had invented the internet, and they threw me under the bus. And I talked to him about 3 days later, and I said, "I'm sorry about this, Senator. I mean, I really shouldn't have said it." He says, "Oh, don't worry about it." He said, "I'm disappointed no one asked me. I was going to tell him I invented the telegraph."
that shows the man and the sense of humor. Douglas Holtz-Aiken, we're glad you came in. We're glad you wore pants today and not running shorts. Seriously, on a difficult day for you and everybody in the McCain family, appreciate you sharing some wonderful memories. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
All right, our next guest calls Senator McCain an inspiration for her life. Morgan Ortegas, you've seen her on our air. She had Senator McCain as a mentor. What a special opportunity. She's going to talk about that live next.
Nothing is inevitable here. Americans never quit. We never surrender. We never hide from history. We make history. Thank you, and God bless you, and God bless America.
Whatever he's planning, he's ready now. France, Yemen, Syria. This is an international organization. Listen to me. Where's the attack? I promise you, I'm the best chance you have.
Your digestive system has billions of bacteria, but life can throw them off balance. Realign yourself with Align Probiotic. And try new Align gummies with prebiotics and probiotics to help support digestive health.
Got directions to the nightclub here. And if you get lost, just hit me on the old horn.
Tom's my best friend, but ever since he bought a new house...
It's a $10 cover? Oh, okay. You can see that on the website.
He's been acting more and more like his dad.
Come on, guys, jump in. The water's fine. Tom Pritchard. How we doing? Hi there, Tom Pritchard. Can we get a round of jalapeno poppers for me and the boys, please? I've been saving a lot of money with Progressive lately, so...
Progressive can't protect you from becoming your parents, but we can protect your home and auto when you bundle with us.
Away is a million miles from the office. 1,000 years from yesterday. And the absolute shortest distance between work and play. Find your away. For a dealer in the RV that's right for you, visit GoRVing.com.
I yo-yo dieted for years. I counted the points, I followed the rules, and it didn't help me long term.
I was just so tired of losing the weight and gaining it all back.
But I found something new. It's called Noom.
It's not a diet. It's a totally different, personalized program
that uses psychology and small goals to change your habits so that you can lose the weight
and keep it off for good.
It's super easy to get started, so what do you have to lose? Visit Noom.com today and lose the weight for good.
At Safelite Auto Glass, we really pride ourselves on making it easy for you to get your windshield fixed. With Safelite, you can see exactly when we'll be there, saving you time for what you love most.
What does Help for Heart Failure look like? It looks like this. Entresto is a heart failure pill that helped keep people alive and out of the hospital. Don't take Entresto if pregnant. It can cause harm or death to an unborn baby. Don't take Entresto with an ACE inhibitor or aliskiren, or if you've had angioedema with an ACE or ARB. The most serious side effects are angioedema, low blood pressure, kidney problems, or high blood potassium. Ask your doctor about Entresto.
The beat goes on.
Yeah.
Fox News Channel on Sirius XM. Your favorite shows on Channel 114. Plus, every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7 at Channel 115.
Today, America remembers legendary lawmaker and war hero John McCain. The late senator served as a mentor to our next guest, who remembers him as a tireless defender of our national security. Morgan Ortegas, a former State Department press officer and a familiar face to this channel, joins us. Morgan, good morning. Thank you for taking time.
Good morning, Griff.
Take me back. So you consider Senator McCain a mentee, a mentor, and your relationship with him. Tell us.
Well, I think that saying that he's a mentor is probably a step too far, but I would say that he has been a great inspiration in my life and in several ways. In January of 2016, Senator John McCain and Senator Lindsey Graham founded the Veterans Coalition for My PAC, Maverick PAC, and it was a freezing night in New York City, and we ran through New York without our coats on to make the launch of this PAC on time. And the fact that there were so many young veterans that were waiting for him, that were politically active. He went through harrowing feats that night to get to the event to make sure that he was there. He was an inspiration to so many. And then over these past few years, he graciously allowed me to join the Munich Security Conference, where he takes a delegation. He's been taking a delegation for many years. And he really spent the time with those of us who were young on the delegation to make sure that we were fighting for democracy and for freedom and for all of the ideals that he believes in. So over these past couple of years, I've had the chance to get to know him and see his love for his family, see his love for his country up close. And I think I'm one of many, many young people that he has inspired.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I want to turn you just to one topic in the news, though, because this is your wheelhouse and you can help us best understand. And that is Idris Jazari, who is on the UN Human Rights Council, is blasting the administration's sanctions against Iran. Idris says, quote, "These unjust and harmful sanctions are destroying the economy and currency of Iran, driving millions of people into poverty and making imported goods unaffordable." What is this about?
Well, there's one person that's responsible for destroying the Iranian economy, and that's the Ayatollah Khamenei. I think, for the Human Rights Council, which we could go into, Griff, for another 5 minutes about how absurd the council is and how almost a majority of their resolutions are against Israel. No resolutions passed against China, against Cuba, against Zimbabwe, some of the most egregious, human rights violators in the world. For them to focus their time on legitimate sanctions from the U.S. is a disgrace. This administration withdrew from the Iran deal, from the JCPOA, because it was not a ratified treaty by our Senate. It was executive action that President Obama took, and we withdrew for many reasons. But principally, when you look at it from the economic perspective, the Iranians got over $150 billion in sanctions relief. They spend millions of dollars a year wreaking havoc in Syria, funding the Houthis in Yemen. They're going to spend billions of dollars reportedly to rebuild the Syrian economy. So this is why the Iranian people are protesting. Yeah. This is legitimate action taken by the United States government. And if there is any economic troubles that the Iranian people are facing, it's from their own government. They don't have to spend billions in Syria. They don't have to spend hundreds of millions fomenting terrorism around the world. These are the actions that their government chooses to take. Since a disgraceful day, this is case in point why we withdrew from the Human Rights Council, from these sorts of absurd actions.
Well, we will keep our eye on that. Morgan, thank you for joining us, and thank you for your thoughts on Senator McCain. Certainly someone who devoted his life to making sure we had international order. Morgan, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you,
we'll be back with more Fox and Friends after this.
When my hot water heater failed, it rocked our world. We called USAA, and they greeted me as they always do. Sergeant Baker, how are you? They took care of everything A to Z. Having insurance is something everyone needs, but having USAA, that's a privilege.
Folks, if you look out your window, we're flying over IHOP's delicious international pancake combos.
Sweet tres leches.
Pancakes.
Let's back this thing up and take another look.
Go on a pancation with international pancakes at IHOP, starting at $4.99.
Jamaica, we live by the don't worry philosophy. And Only Sandals gives you more of Jamaica because everything's included at 6 spectacular resorts. So you can stay at one and play at all of them. Play more, man. Dine at more restaurants, no problem. And celebrate more. All included, all unlimited. Sandals Resorts. More of Jamaica's best from the world's best. Call 1-800-SANDALS.
Introducing the latest advancements in copper compression garments. CopperFit Pro, now with targeted kinesiology compression bands designed to pinpoint and relieve muscle and joint soreness. Kinesiology compression bands are strategically patterned in the garment to target known pain center pressure points and aid in recovery and performance. Purchase your CopperFit Pro series at Dick's Sporting Goods.
I love my grandma.
As you grow older, your brain naturally begins to change, which may cause trouble with recall.
Learning from him is great when I can keep up.
Thankfully, Prevagen helps your brain and improves memory.
Dad's got all the answers.
Prevagen is now the #1 selling brain health supplement in drugstores nationwide.
She outsmarts me every single time.
Checkmate. You want to play again?
Prevagen, healthier brain, better life.
Every time you're online, your private information can be stolen, sold, or exploited. That's why you need NordVPN. Online protection trusted by millions of people worldwide. NordVPN uses military-grade encryption that protects your information from online tracking. In just a few clicks, you can protect up to 6 devices for just $5 per month. Don't risk being hacked. Install NordVPN at nordvpn.com/TV today.
I was looking for somebody who wanted to find love.
At eHarmony, we ask you questions so that we can match you for a lasting connection.
I found my person.
I really found my true love on eHarmony.
eHarmony.com, the #1 trusted dating site. Start for free today.
Some quick headlines. A high school football community is mourning the loss of a beloved teammate. 16-year-old Dennis Mitchell collapsed after suffering cardiac arrest during Friday's game. He later passed away at a hospital. The family is now awaiting an autopsy as the sophomore didn't have any prior health issues. Turning to extreme weather, life-threatening flash floods are putting Hawaii on notice. Parts of the Big Island receiving as much as 45 inches of torrential rain. The devastation trapping families inside their homes as Tropical Storm Lane begins to drift away from Hawaii. We can expect another 5 to 10 inches of rain throughout the day. And an autistic 13-year-old boy crashes a stolen ambulance. The teen was being evaluated at a Rhode Island firehouse when he pulled out in front of a motorcyclist. The biker's helmet camera caught the moment of impact. A firefighter was thrown from the side of the truck seconds before it crashes. Only minor injuries reported, thank goodness. Socialism still gaining in popularity with some on the left.
That's right. With the promise of getting everything for free, Rachel, a Brooklyn professor tweeting about his new op-ed on socialism, saying the New York Times asked me to write a piece on what socialism means. My answer, the socialist argument against capitalism is not that it makes us poor, it's that it makes us unfree. But as an added irony, the link to the op-ed is stuck behind the New York Times website's paywall. So even the article is not free. Here with the reaction, managing editor of Olympic Media, Katie Freites. Katie, great to see you this morning. And I wonder, this idea that getting free stuff brings you more freedom seems ironic, to say the least.
It is, absolutely, and I don't know if he's perhaps aware that a few of the core tenets of socialism are removing our freedoms within that system. And, you know, there's a reason why utopias only exist in fiction, and that's because in reality they just don't play out the way perhaps we might want them to. And of course, it doesn't make us more free. Giving us free things, you know, nothing is ever actually free. Someone is always paying, and just because it's not you doesn't mean that it's not hurting other people. And that's really not a hard concept to figure out.
Right. And Corey Rubin is the professor involved. Here's an excerpt from the op-ed called "The New Socialist." He says, "We live not in freedom, but in domination. Socialists want to end that domination, to establish freedom from rule by the boss, from the need to smile for the sake of a sale, from the obligation to sell for the sake of survival." But Katie, when you get this free stuff that we're talking about, it seems to me like you're a little more dependent on the man, or in this case, big government.
Well, of course you are. And the great thing is that you won't have to smile for a sale because all of your stuff will be taken away. So you don't actually have to sell anything at all. But the irony of this is so thick that it's hard to know where to start, of course. One of the reasons capitalism is so successful, one of the reasons America itself is so successful and the most powerful nation in the world is because of capitalism. Because capitalism reins in our worser impulses as human beings and funnels them into a productive manner for the rest of the people we live around. Socialism does not do that. Is capitalism perfect? Absolutely not, but it is the most effective system we've found to date to bring everyone from the poor to the middle class to the upper class into a higher standard of living, and that is just a fact.
Absolutely, and as you can imagine, there was a lot of blowback to this op-ed. Free country. Professor Corey Rubin can write what he wants, and people can react how they want. So he went on Twitter to try to explain himself. I'm not sure this explains it. He says, "The New York Times asked me to write a piece on what socialism means. My answer, the socialist argument against capitalism is not that it makes us poor, it's that it makes us unfree." That seems even more bizarre.
Well, of course it is. And on top of this, I almost am happy that it's behind a paywall because it stops a large amount of people from having to read it in the first place. So we'll just keep it at that, of course. But, you know, as he said that capitalism, socialism prevents us from being unfree, that paywall is also unfree.
Oh, well, good points, and especially right now when you have a growing number of Democrats, it seems, admitting that they're for socialism and just putting it on the table in these midterms. So we'll see how that plays out. Katie Freites, appreciate you coming in.
Thanks.
All right, coming up, Senator John McCain. We've been talking about him all morning, his life, his legacy. He was a loyal defender of American freedom after spending 5 years as a prisoner of war. Joey Jones lost both his legs in a bomb blast while serving in Afghanistan. You've seen him here many times. He's here to discuss John McCain's lasting impact on members of the military like himself. That's next.
It's first, Americans last, and Americans always. Let us argue our differences, but remember, we are not enemies, but comrades in a war against a real enemy. And take courage from the knowledge that our military superiority is matched only by the superiority of our ideals and our unconquerable love for them.
You honestly think Riley North did this?
Today's the 5-year anniversary of her family's murder. She's back.
Corrupt judges, dirty cops.
What do I want? I want justice.
Peppermint, rated R.
First dates, they can be a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know. Kind of like my constipation.
Let's not talk about constipation.
Did I make it more uncomfortable?
Say no more to occasional constipation with clinically proven effective Senecot. Satisfaction guaranteed or your money back.
Some believe if it's not German, it's not luxury performance. So we brought these Infiniti SUVs to Germany with American families to drive them.
This truck is only for German luxury auto, not for family or SUV.
VC Turbo. It's like 2 engines in one. How did Germany not do that first?
The Infiniti family of SUVs. There's nothing traditional about it. Finance the Infiniti QX50 at 0.9% APR for 60 months. Infiniti. Empower the drive.
Online dating? I know people meet that way, but where would I even begin?
Open laptop? Go to OurTime.com. Look for free. It's easy to take a look on Our Time, the fastest growing dating site for people over 50.
How can we say when you book direct at ChoiceHotels.com, you always get the lowest price in our rooms, guaranteed?
Let's say it in a really low voice.
Carl?
Lowest price guaranteed.
Just stick with bada book, bada boom.
Book now at ChoiceHotels.com.
See, that's funny. I thought you traded options.
I'm not really a Wall Street guy.
What's the hesitation?
It just feels too complicated, you know?
Well, share it first, but JJ can help you with that. JJ, will you break it down for this gentleman?
Hey, Ian.
You know, at TD Ameritrade, we can walk you through your options trade step by step until you're comfortable.
I could be up for that.
That's taking options trading from Wall Street to Main Street.
Hey, guys, you want to play some pool?
I'm not really a pool guy.
What's the hesitation?
It's just complicated.
Step-by-step options trading support from TD Ameritrade.
It's Golden Corral's Wings and Rib Fest. Hurry in for fall-apart baby back ribs. And wings just like you like them. All you can eat every night. Start the car. Golden Corral. Your choice rules.
Maybe a lot of people have forgotten the value of a hard day's work, but we see it every day.
Enjoyed for 125 years by those who work hard. Maxwell House, good to the last drop.
If your moderate to severe ulcerative colitis or Crohn's symptoms are holding you back, and your current treatment hasn't worked well enough, it may be time for a change. Ask your doctor about Entyvio, the only biologic developed and approved just for UC and Crohn's. Entyvio works at the site of inflammation in the GI tract and is clinically proven to help many patients achieve both symptom relief and remission. Infusion and serious allergic reactions can happen during or after treatment. Entyvio may increase risk of infection, which can be serious. PML, a rare, serious, potentially fatal brain infection caused by a virus, may be possible. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, experience frequent infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Liver problems can occur with Entyvio. If your UC or Crohn's treatment isn't working for you, ask your gastroenterologist about Entyvio. Entyvio, relief and remission within reach.
Flags at the White House at half-staff, honoring Senator John McCain, who passed away at the age of 81. The nation is mourning the death of Senator McCain.
And in Arizona late last night, a procession near his ranch honoring the maverick of the Senate. Soon, all Americans will have a chance to pay their respects as he lies in state in the U.S. Capitol.
Alicia Cuna is live in Phoenix with the details. Good morning, Alicia.
Good morning, Griff. Good morning, Ed and Rachel. Yes, Arizonans and all Americans will have a number of opportunities to pay their respects to the late senator. Starting here, there will be church services, and he will also lie in state in the Capitol building behind me. From here, Senator McCain is expected to lie in state in the Capitol Rotunda in Washington. That is a rare honor and will happen later this week. He will then receive a full-dress funeral service at the Washington National Cathedral, where Vice President Mike Pence will reportedly attend. McCain will then be laid to rest at the cemetery at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis. This was a wish he expressed some time ago, that his final resting place be his alma mater, where his storied military career began. His father and grandfather, by the way, are buried at Arlington National Cemetery. Within hours of his passing last night, a motorcade left his family ranch north of here, making its way to Phoenix and the mortuary. He was first elected to Congress in 1982, representing Arizona in the House for 2 terms, then the Senate for 6. The word institution is an understatement to describe his presence here, so it was no surprise that when news surfaced of his passing, folks showed up to pay tribute to this true American hero. And as we get more details firmed up on the coming ceremonies, of course, we will bring them to you. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Alicia. And he will be the 29th person in history to lie in a state in the Capitol. It's going to be a big honor. The last one to do so, Senator Daniel Inouye.
Wow, remarkable. And Bret Baier, of course, is the host of Special Report with Bret Baier. And long before he was covering presidential campaigns, he was also covering the Pentagon and traveling around the world with men and women in uniform. And Bret, as we bring you in, we appreciate you joining us this morning. This is a man we could talk about so many layers of his life, but his impact on the military and defending this country seems to be pretty massive.
Yeah, good morning. I think that's the biggest part of his life, his service, not only as a member of the U.S. military and obviously his time as prisoner of war, but also his service to protect, fund, make sure that the military was doing the right thing as the Senate Armed Services Committee chairman. And he was such a big figure. You know, I talked about it yesterday a little bit, that when I covered the Pentagon, you know, people would shudder in their boots to testify in front of him. But they always knew that he had the military's back. And, remember Abu Ghraib during Iraq. McCain was on the forefront of pushing the administration on that. Remember, all of the different elements, Gitmo, pushing back on extreme interrogation techniques. I mean, he stood on principle, and a lot of it had to do with the U.S. military.
Yeah, Brett, when you mentioned that last night, Vice President Cheney put out a statement honoring his legacy, and they didn't always see eye to eye, because you're right. You and I covered the Bush White House, and the fact of the matter is they were frustrated at times that John McCain was pushing back on enhanced interrogation techniques, but his experience, 5.5 years in that POW camp, gave him a much different perspective than others.
Yeah, and he was respected because of that. And his relationship with people across the aisle was really unique. He could stand on principle. He could be a fighter on Republican, top points and bills. But then he could reach out with people like John Kerry and, help during the Clinton administration in the normalization with Vietnam. Or he could, he was one of those rare figures in the Senate that sometimes you didn't know where he was.
Brett, you said last night in our channel's coverage that you feel like the last speech on the Senate floor in July of last year is really the one that we will look back to. He spoke about a lot of reaching across the aisle, and what's so important about that speech that we will remember?
Well, I think he was talking and kind of instructing his colleagues to stand up for what they believe, and just don't be bullied over and rolled over by a late-night process that jams things down their throat. That is how a lot of things, as you know, have gotten through because they were up against a cliff one way or another, a financial cliff or a deadline. McCain was fighting for regular order and fighting for each individual person representing their voters.
Brett, we hear a lot in politics about term limits, but when I read John McCain's last speech, I was really reminded of the wisdom and the institutional knowledge and the love of the Senate that comes from somebody who serves for such a long time in the Senate. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, there are a lot of people who had a problem with John McCain. Let's not sugarcoat it. I mean, there were conservatives who really had an issue. Not to mention, beyond his vote on Obamacare, he, though, knew the way the Senate worked. You had Chuck Schumer yesterday come out and say that they're considering renaming the Russell Senate office building for John McCain, and he's going to put that forward. Well, Russell was pretty much the guy who figured out the Senate, who knew how it worked, and Johnson, Lyndon Johnson, learned from him and became kind of the operator of the Senate. Senator John McCain was another guy who knew how to run the Senate and how to get things through various ways.
Yeah, Brett, Chad Pergram, our great senior producer on Capitol Hill, was saying last night that, of course, if it's the McCain Senate office building, it'd be McCain SOB. And maybe McCain would have a laugh about that because, as you know, as much as he reached across the aisle and had some fun and had a great sense of humor, he had a temper, and he was upfront about saying that when people got his dander up, he'd give it right back to them.
Oh, yeah. And he would needle you and kind of give you that little impish smile. I think he would love the McCain SOB. And it's interesting that you look back at his life and you saw that HBO documentary about For Whom the Bell Tolls. That deals with the Ernest Hemingway book and movie, obviously, and his protagonist, Robert Jordan, the center of that story, in which McCain just really saw his life, and he would often refer to For Whom the Bell Tolls, and today the bell tolls for John McCain.
Absolutely. Well, you know Brett Baer quite well. On this channel, he will, of course, be leading our coverage this coming week on Special Report, 6 p.m. Eastern every night, but also throughout the day, giving insights and analysis like that. And then after Labor Day, the Senate is going to be going back and dealing, of course, with the confirmation hearings of Brett Kavanaugh, which is another big issue coming up, and Brett will be leading our coverage. So we appreciate you taking some time out this morning.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you, Brett.
All right. It is, at this point, is it an attempt to repair the Democratic Party? The DNC, as we noted earlier, is now limiting superdelegates. We look ahead to the impact on the next presidential election. I bet Bernie Sanders wishes they had done that a few years ago.
A little late for that. And our coverage of the legacy of John McCain continues with the tributes pouring in this morning.
My great privilege was to serve in the company of heroes. I witnessed 1,000 acts of courage and compassion and love, and it was a spiritually uplifting experience for me in many ways, and those that I love most and respect and admire are those that I was there with.
Adults are just kids with much, much better toys. Introducing the 2018 C-Class sedan, coupe, and cabriolet. The thrills keep getting better. Lease the C300 sedan for $399 a month at your local Mercedes-Benz dealer. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.
The Pet Comfort Feeding System from WeatherTech. Certified by the NSF, 100% non-toxic, lead-free, BPA-free, and 100% American-made. No wonder pets love it. Order at petcomfort.com.
You've got to be strong. Remember, Janet,